Previously on No Reserves Radio.
Oh my God, Angelo! Come on, have some self-respect. The Eagles can't hurt you if you don't constantly pander to them.
Here's the biggest indictment of Dame that I can say. Dame has been so off this year that Ren went on live air and said Jalen Brunson deserved an all-star start over him.
You are now Angelo Dudululo.
Do you think it is possible that the management of the Memphis Grizzlies are just buying into the reckless youth movement and they got rid of the one person in the locker room that probably was telling Ja to knock it off?
Because he's taken advantage of me multiple times when I was younger. That sounded bad. Holy shit.
Yeah, I think that's true. I think you're correct in that assessment.
What's going on, guys? Welcome to another episode of No Reserves Radio. Here with me, as always, and we're back to the normal Alex. Guess what, Alex?
What? What's going on, guys?
It finally happened. There
What happened?
will be an episode of No Reserves Radio airing that did not include me.
Oh? So you missed the basketball show.
I did miss the basketball show.
Oh,
So the Sunday episode will feature Ren and Austin and their dulcet tones and fear of being wrong.
okay, so more rationale on Sunday's episode, less
That's what they say.
craziness, right?
Exactly.
Okay.
Here you come for the craziness too. You get a little bit of, you get a little bit of crazy high octane. We're like a buffet. We have a little bit of everything for someone.
But less craziness on Sundays.
This Sunday, not Sunday.
This Sunday, yeah. So just a heads up, guys.
Sunday.
If my voice is a bit shanky today, COVID hit me. So it is what it is, but we're pulling through.
So today's episode, I had something that should be easy for Alex and myself, honestly, is it wouldn't surprise me. And what it wouldn't surprise me is we're going to give our takes on things we think might happen in the upcoming season. It could be in fantasy, it could be regular NFL, it could be anything. So I'm actually excited for this because I think we could take this a few different ways. I'm going to let you start though. What wouldn't surprise you if it happened in the next upcoming season?
So I actually wanted to hijack your show,
Hijack my show?
and
This doesn't
throw
happen to
you
me.
and
Don't
throw
do
you
it.
a wrench here before
Hijack my
we
show.
dive into that. Just so before we dive into that, I was obviously away for basically 2 weeks, which I wasn't paying that much attention to stuff. And out of nowhere, I noticed that a once very strong division in a certain league became not so strong anymore because one team in there decided to completely change up their strategy for this year. So they were looking to compete this year, and out of nowhere, they just dropped all of that and went into a mini retool. Not really a rebuild because there's still assets there, but a retool, pushing it back a few years further. And I want to hear it from the manager of the team. Why did you do that? I was intrigued by that. I didn't question you before in our group chats because I wanted to bring it up here as maybe some sort of help for the people who are watching, listening to us from a Dynasty Fantasy Football standpoint.
First off, Alex, I'm fucking insane. I'm not sure. You're the person who provides the help. I'm the person who is like the devil in your ear saying, do crazy shit. Because that is me. I do crazy shit. But if you want me to inject a little bit of logic into what I did and why I did it. So what is the worst place to be?
In the middle,
Where am I currently?
a bit above the middle.
I would argue I'm in the middle.
I would say you have
So
your head above the middle.
so I wanted to try something different that was uncomfortable. So I could have gone into last season with the roster I had. I probably would have been a solid playoff team, probably a top 3 seed, unless I lost the division and then wild card, whatever that is. But probably a top 3 seed, and I could have made a run there. But here's the thing. There was this nagging thing that always kept coming up in the back of my mind. And that nagging thing is, even if you beat Alex this year or whomever, did you really beat Alex this year? And I realized that roster was strong, but it wasn't the best roster. And why would I want to do something if I'm not doing it best? So I decided to sell the assets that, because I decided I don't actually have a window. Well, I guess I did. I had a window of that year. And then I would have had to start making moves to either retool or get new assets, right? So, what's better? Competing for the championship this year and then having to scramble and retool your roster and then decide, you know, do I want to retool again or do I want to blow it up? Or taking the assets you were going to have to move anyway next year. Move those assets now when they're a bit more valuable because DK Metcalf was one of the assets. DK Metcalf is 26, if I'm not mistaken, correct?
Yeah, I think so.
And what is the magic age for dynasty owners to get impatient with wide receivers?
Around 27.
Around 27. He was one of the guys I would have had to move. Devontae Smith is the one that hurt the most. But anyway, regardless, why not move the pieces I would have had to move anyway a year earlier when they are a bit more valuable? I acquired, if I'm not mistaken, I have 9 first round draft picks now in the next 3 drafts. And then try and basically replicate what I did in the last season where I acquired a bunch of players and traded away draft, because I don't think any of my draft picks are necessarily strong because I think all the owners I have them from have good teams.
Yes,
But
that
you
is
never
true.
know what can happen in a year. But you never know what can happen, especially in 3 years. These are draft picks that are 3 years down the line. You definitely don't know what can happen in 3 years.
Also
But
very true.
regardless, I think it's easier to move draft picks than it is to move an aging player. And if I'm not going to be first, I'd rather be in the middle, but with a bunch of draft capital that I can move into the top. That's kind of the goal. I want to create something that will outdo your whatever it was 5-year reign of terror. I want something better than that. I don't want to be good and potentially win a championship this year and then I have to redo it again. I want to be better than you for a 5-year stretch every single year.
So this is your version of completing the story.
Basically, yes. And something that I also thought of in the back of my mind is the reason I got those deals in the first place the last season was because I had been so terrible for so long that I kind of got gifted a few of those trades because the people I was trading with was like, "Oh, what the fuck's this guy gonna do? He's had the number 1 pick the last 2-3 years." So I if I was the number 1 seed in the playoffs, and whether I won or not, that perception was going to end. I don't think that perception ends with what I did now. And I do think there's still a path that I get into the playoffs. And then you get into the playoffs and anything's. But I feel
Okay, so
like
you're
I made the moves proactively instead of waiting for the result of what was going to happen this season and then having to scramble to make moves. I didn't have to scramble with those moves. And I feel like I got good returns on basically all of them except the Devontae Smith return.
Anta Smith. Yeah,
Yeah.
I would agree. I think I would have taken a different path in which I thought your team was really solid. It needed like 1, 2 flexes and a running
No,
back.
it's really solid.
And I think you had the picks for that. So I would have moved the two 2025 ones that aren't yours and the two 2026 ones that weren't yours. And I would move those picks for assets. But I understand what you did. Now that you're explaining it, it makes sense as well. You're truly on that Cody Rhodes path. So you basically just lost at Mania 39, and now you are building yourself back up for Mania 40. Makes sense. Uh, perception also didn't change because, as people who follow wrestling know, the chase for the title as a babyface is usually more rewarding than when the babyface wins the title. So you still have that goodwill from being the babyface who doesn't have the title yet. So yeah, makes sense and works as a wrestling analogy as well.
There you go. When are we going to do another wrestling episode? There's actually been really good content on that.
We need to find the time for that because usually the best times are Mondays. And unfortunately, I don't have Mondays available as much. I do have one Monday available, which is the 22nd of July, because I'm on vacations that week and I'm
perfect.
not doing
I'm-
anything until the
I'm gonna
25th.
be at front row in the Monday Night Raw on June 15th. That's actually the Monday after that. I'll be back in town.
Wait, June has passed. So
Or July 15th. July 15th. Sorry.
July 15th. Okay, so that's for the Monday Night Raw. Okay, yeah. I think we can probably schedule a show for the 22nd then.
Okay, that sounds good to me.
I should be available.
Okay. So before we get into it, then, since I don't like being my show getting hijacked, I like to hijack my own show. Damn it! What did
Too
you
bad.
think of the moves at the time?
Let me look back at the movies because I saw them diagonally. I didn't open up the app a whole bunch just to push and whatnot. I know I didn't like the Devonta Smith one all that much. I thought you sold him for pretty cheap. So DK, I liked. You moved DK and Tajay Spears for 2 firsts and 2 seconds. They shouldn't be too high, but I also don't think they'll be too low. So I think it's going to be in the 10 to 12 range probably. So it's not at the absolute bottom of the barrel, and it still has upside to be higher. Because I think Tajay is one of those guys that won't last a whole lot of time in the league. He should have a career path much similar to like a Todd Gurley, for example, in terms of longevity, due to his knees having the cartilage issues, if I'm not mistaken. And then for DK, I mean, he's in a tricky spot. People don't really perceive him as this sort of elite wide receiver, even when he has good finishes. So now that he finished outside of the top 20 in PPR this past season, I'm not entirely certain if he can bounce back to be once again one of those players that finishes inside of the top 15, top 20 anymore, because I think the connection with Gino is tricky. You add in Jackson Smith and Jigba, you add in a new uncertainty of a coach that is a defensive head coach and that does not have a whole lot of experience in terms of calling offensive plays, or even if any. You get a good OC, the guy from Washington, who produced that good office in college football, but it's still a tricky situation. So I like that one quite a bit. But then for Devonta Smith, you basically move Devonta, Jake Ferguson, which I liked as well as a tight end, Tony Pollard, which I'm lukewarm about. I think you cashed out at a really good time. and Kirk Cousins, and you basically got like a 1 and a 2 in 2027. Late picks in 2027 as well, Stroud and Bateman. Bateman, I really don't like. I know you've loved him ever since he came out of college, but I'm not really that big of a fan. I think he got a pretty small deal. It was a
But he
three-year
got a deal.
deal. He got a
Yeah.
deal, sure, but I mean the money invested in him. I think it was. Let me check because I
Was
had
it
it
3 or 15
here.
million?
It was 2 years. I'm not seeing the full amount. It was 2 years something. Uh, okay, so it's a 3-year deal, $15 million. So 5 million per year. I mean, this seems like one of those deals that expires in 2 years until they figure out a replacement for him. So I don't think there's much in him in Baltimore anymore, or for longer, that is. And then you got CJ Stroud. I mean, CJ Stroud, I think, is a good QB. I think you probably should cash out on him right now. I mean, we've talked about Stroud before a couple episodes ago. So if people wanna know what I talked about Stroud and how inflated I think his value is, you can check back the previous episode. But yeah, I mean, his efficiency is likely not to be replicated again. He had crazy efficiency last year. I don't expect it to continue. Maybe come down back to earth a bit. I'm not saying that he's going to be bad, but he's currently trending as a QB, a top three QB in fantasy, and he doesn't really have the legs for that. Literally, we know that Russian QBs usually tend to hold on to those spots much better than passing QBs. So I would look into moving him right now while the hype is crazy high. Maybe get a solid return. Maybe you go for a
Hmm.
Justin Herbert, for example, which I think the owner might be iffy on. Try to get something else on top of Herbert. Look at a deal like that. Maybe look for like Trojans, for example. He has Burrow. Maybe he isn't sold on Burrow. You know that CJ Stroud is one of those guys that, if I'm not mistaken, player profile quite liked. So if they
Yes.
like him, you know
Yes.
that Trojans is gonna like CJ Stroud quite a bit. So he might have some sort of leverage in terms of like he's giving you your team's QB, so he knows that you have some sort of emotional attachment to him. But I'd still look into trading CJ Stroud because overall I didn't love that trade all that much. But I mean, maybe Smith uh, isn't the same player this year because the Eagles. I could
You
see the
don't get
Eagles
into it.
not having. I could see the Eagles not having the best of seasons. I'll leave it at that.
That'll be later in the episode. Because if you weren't
Later.
going to do it, I was going to do it. All right. Can we get into this episode now? Did we sidetrack enough?
We can. I've done sidetracking your episode.
All right. You want me to start or you want to start? It's your sidetracker.
Go ahead.
All right. I'll start it hot. Fuck it. I can't believe I'm fucking saying this. It wouldn't surprise me if the Jets won the AFC East.
Oh,
Yeah. Yeah.
yikes.
Yeah. Yeah. I understand that right now Aaron Rodgers is not the most favorable of dudes and not in the news for the best stuff right now. But that has always been Aaron Rodgers, basically for the last decade. He's a lot closer to Brett Favre than he would like to admit, I'm sure. But that roster, on paper, was probably the best roster in the AFC East, offensively and defensively. They invested in the offensive line yet again, and it wouldn't surprise me if Aaron Rodgers has enough juice left to take the Jets past the choking Bills well, you can say both teams chokes and past Miami, who struggle in cold weather situations, and they have to play against Buffalo and New York and New England.
I thought you were gonna forget New England.
No,
Not sure how they get past New England.
I think Miami. I think we're gonna start seeing a very similar trend with Miami because they have stupid fast dudes. They play in warm weather. They're gonna come out super hot, but once you hit November, December, then they're gonna start to slow down. So I think the real threat is the Bills. If the Jets can stay above water with the Bills, I think they got it. Good. Yeah, go ahead. You want to lambast me for that, Vic? Go ahead. Let's do it. Let's hear
I
it.
just think that Miami, like, while the season matters, and I gotta check the schedule as well because I don't think I've seen the schedule
The
with a
Jets have
lot
like
of
10 primetime games.
yeah, that I remember. That is like it's Jesus Christ. If Aaron Rodgers gets hurt again, God have mercy on all of us. Because I'm not sure if I can watch a lot of primetime games with the Jets being QB'd by Tyrell Taylor. Like I'm not even
When
a
you were a
I,
Jets fan, man. I remember when you were a Jets fan, man.
yeah, but it's like back then I was emotionally attached to Zach Wilson. I'm not emotionally attached to a guy that got his lungs struck out by a doctor of the Los Angeles Chargers. Okay, so I wanted to check the schedules because you mentioned something that I agree with, that it's the Miami Dolphins having a good, strong start to the season, but then sort of fading out as the season goes on. And I wanted to check like how they finish the season in terms of like, are they playing way more? Are they playing in
Oh,
colder
no, the fix is in.
states
They're
more?
playing in cold weather. I guarantee they have at least 2 division games after December, and they will play like Cincinnati or Cleveland. I bet money on it. Go on.
Okay, okay. I'm opening it up. Okay, so
I guarantee the fix is in. I guarantee the fix is in on the NFL schedule.
so let's look at okay. Let's look at November. November is probably
Yeah.
cold-ish, right?
It starts getting cold. December, January is actually when it really gets cold, at
Okay.
least on the East Coast. But November it starts to cool down. So
Okay.
but
So
we can start with
in
November.
November, and you have to help me out here with the weather for some of these states because I know, for example, like Buffalo tends to be quite cold. They do play the
Buffalo is in New
Bills.
York. Yes.
Yes. But they do play the Bills on the 3rd of November. So it's cold, but it's not super cold. Like the Dolphins can still
Yeah, it'll still be
operate at that
it'll still
temperature.
be it'll still be
Yeah.
fall, yeah.
Then they play the Patriots, but it's at the Hard Rock Stadium. So it's at Miami. It's
That's
all
in
good.
Miami. Okay.
Then you jump at, I'm looking at other places. Okay, so late November, 28th of November, they go at Green Bay. So that's probably a much colder
There you
game,
go.
right? Yeah.
Yes.
But
Green Bay,
other than
Minnesota, and
that,
Wisconsin get really cold. But
I think the two other difficult games for them, temperature-wise, are going to be the last two because they go at Cleveland. So you add that right in. They go at Cleveland on the 29th of December. So pretty cold, right? And then week 18, it says to be decided, but it's going to be in January, early January. And it's at the New York Jets. So gonna be cold as well.
there
But I
you
don't
go.
think it's incredibly cold. Like it's
Fix.
I'm
And
gonna
New
look
York
at
offense.
No, I'm not saying it's incredibly cold in general in that late part of the season that they're at. I think they are going to have favorable matchups there in the end, and I actually can do like a small like, for example, I think they beat Jacksonville. I think they beat Buffalo early
You
on. I
think
think what?
what did you think about that Trevor Lawrence deal? Did we ever talk about that?
No, because I was off last
That was me
week.
and Austin. Me and Austin discussed like Trevor Lawrence making more than Patrick Mahomes, and
I mean,
just saying.
what can I tell you? I don't think it's a good idea. I think Trevor Lawrence is properly overrated at this point.
Said properly overrated.
Yeah, I wanted to throw a curveball in there so people would think that it's properly rated, but no, he's overrated at this point. I mean, he's getting paid top QB money, and right now, as we stand, I think the following QBs are better than him. Just in general, just in the NFL, Patrick Mahomes, Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson,
Okay,
Joe Burrow.
okay, of course.
So that's four, right?
Those are all
Four.
of course. Honestly,
Okay.
those are all of course.
Even Jalen Hurts, which I'm not the biggest fan, but Jalen
Hmm.
Hurts,
Okay.
Jordan Love, Brock Purdy.
Oh,
Jordan Love is a better QB than Trevor Lawrence.
better.
He's a better QB. Take the name off the shirts. Jordan Love is a better QB than Trevor Lawrence. So that's 7 right here. I'll add in Dak Prescott as well. That's 8. I'll add in Jared Goff. That's 9. Pretty easily. Um, I'll add on Matthew Stafford as well. Pretty easily.
I don't.
So that's 10 right there. And then there's other players that I can also say that are better than him. But you could make an argument that they aren't. Justin Herbert, CJ Stroud, Kyler Murray, Tua Tagovailoa, and Baker Mayfield. I think all of those 5 plus Trevor
Hey,
Lawrence.
you lost me
Yes.
with Baker Mayfield, dude.
Why?
Baker Mayfield. You do know Trevor Lawrence made it to an AFC like conference championship, right? Baker Mayfield. Baker
Yes.
Mayfield.
Yes. Baker Mayfield. You heard
Okay.
that correctly, Angel. It's Baker Mayfield.
I,
That's the
I
name.
I think you might have gone too far with that one on the Trevor shade.
I mean,
Baker Mayfield.
it is what it is. I just think it's a better QB. I mean, the
Baker
stats were
Mayfield
also better.
Baker Mayfield wasn't sure where he was playing until like halfway through the offseason. Baker Mayfield wasn't sure where he was playing last year until like halfway through the offseason.
And what did he do last year? And
Not a good year.
they
Just not
actually, just so you know, Trevor Lawrence has 2 playoff games. That's it. He didn't make it to the conference championship game. He made it to the divisional round. Baker Mayfield has done that twice. His first year with Cleveland, and this past season with Tampa Bay. Or his second year with Cleveland, something like that. It was in 2020. Years are tough. It was, no, he came out in 2016? No, 2018. So it is 18, 19, 19, 20. So his second or third season with the Cleveland Browns. He made it to the same sections of the divisional playoff round, and he did it as well with Tampa Bay. In both of those playoff runs, he had 467 yards, 686 yards. Trevor Lawrence had 500 yards, 5 touchdowns, 5 interceptions. Baker Mayfield, 6 touchdowns, 2 interceptions this past season. I just think like the difference between the two guys, if you take the names off the shirts, isn't that much. And you get one guy
Sorry, but the name on the shirt low key does matter though.
It doesn't. When you're playing, it doesn't.
Yes, it does.
It does if your name is Brady, because maybe you can make the opposition fear you by that.
Peyton Manning went to a Super Bowl and he played like absolute dog shit, and people still respected and feared him, even though he knew he was done at the end of that season. At the end of that season, he knew his career was done.
I mean, I don't think anyone really feared Peyton Manning in that Super Bowl. They feared the defense of the Denver Broncos that season, and that's what won them the Super Bowl. Because after the injury, he was dusted.
He was not dusted after the neck injury. Get
Not the
out of here
neck
with that.
injury, the injury that he suffered in that season. That saw Brock
Oh, okay.
Osweiler play some games.
Oh, yeah, and get a deal with Houston. Yeah. I
Yeah.
remember that.
So, I don't know. If you take the names off the shirts and you put an helmet that covers both of their heads, and you add, what, 5 inches to Baker Mayfield so he looks around the same height as Trevor Lawrence, I just think that they're both pretty similar guys. And I don't think one is worth like nearly the double of the amount of money yearly, average per year, than the other. And that's what you're paying Trevor Lawrence. You're paying him what, 55? Is that the number? 55 API?
Yeah, he makes 70 near the end of that deal, almost 80.
Yeah, but API wise, I think it's around
It's like
55.
50. It's like 56, 58. Yeah.
Okay. Baker is around the 30s, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
So I don't think one guy's worth nearly double the amount of the other. I think they're pretty similar guys. So I'd put them in the same tier. Yeah, average per year is 33 for Baker.
Unbelievable.
And I'm not the biggest Baker fan. You know that. Ever since he came out, I've been pretty critical of him. But I mean, maybe it was true that the injuries were holding him back in his last season with the Browns, and
I
then
mean,
in the
I think
season with
that's
Cleveland.
actually a fair assessment because he did look extremely hobbled a lot of those games.
And outside of that, like if you take away that season that he had with the Cleveland Browns, people were fairly okay-ish to not hype, but they were okay to good on him. They were feeling okay to good to having him as a QB. And then he comes out and he has that stinker of a year. They still make the playoffs, if I'm not mistaken, right? Or no? I don't remember if that
I
season they made
I
the
think they
playoffs.
missed it. I think they missed it at the last game, and that's
They
why
missed it at the last game? Okay, makes sense. Yeah, it was. Yeah, 2021, he didn't make it in. They were 6-8 in the games that they played with him. They finished overall 8-9. So, and before that,
Yeah.
like people were okay with Baker because before that he came from an 11-5 season. Sure, the defense was pretty good, if I remember that correctly. The run game was pretty good, but it still had a pretty solid season. Like nothing that blows you away, but like 3.5k yards, passing, 26 touchdowns, 8 interceptions. Then he follows that up with 3k yards passing, 17 touchdowns, 13 interceptions. That throws his stock in the garbage. Then he goes to Carolina and he has a really bad few games. I believe he started at like 6 games with the Panthers. And it was just the Panthers effect. Being coached by Matt Ja Rule does that to a guy, I guess. And then he goes to the Rams, and I think like with the Rams, he does. Wasn't that the one game that he comes? He joins the Rams midweek, and then the Rams play like on a Thursday, and they are facing like the Raiders, and Baker plays pretty well in Stafford's absence. So I think if the 2021 season didn't happen with the Cleveland Browns and he doesn't get traded to Carolina, I think people think a bit better of Baker Mayfield than they do right now. And they would put him in the same conversation as Trevor Lawrence fairly quickly. Now, sure, Trevor Lawrence has maybe he can develop, maybe all of that. Maybe he had a pretty solid season
He has
in 2022.
he has better. God, he has pedigree. He has a better offensive line. He
But like,
has better weapons now.
okay, so he has all of that, and he had a pretty similar season to Baker this past season.
Right.
No, actually, yeah, pretty. It was worse this
But
past season.
they didn't. Right, but they didn't make those improvements until this offseason. That's what I'm saying. Tampa is low
I mean,
key just like run it back at this point.
and last year it went okay.
Right, but now everyone's a year older, and I don't know. I don't know if I could say that.
QB wise, I think they're similar. Like the squads around them, sure, maybe Trevor Lawrence has a better squad around him. But now that he has gotten that fat ass deal, I don't think they will be able to keep everyone around for that much longer because
Tony
the
Khan
cap
doesn't
it
care about
starts
that.
to. But the NFL cap probably cares. Sure, the cap is going to go up and all of that. We know how
Yeah,
that works.
it doesn't.
Still, I don't
Interesting.
think it's such a crazy take. Let us know what you think,
All
audience.
right. All right. Fuck
But
you,
again,
Alex.
to your original point,
Mhm.
I think I could see them being good. I just think that Miami, as the routine settled down, I think the team has settled down. I think I trust more in McDaniels than I trust Salah at this point. I think it's a well-oiled machine in Miami right now, and I'm not sure if I can say the same about the Jets. And I'm also scared about Rodgers' Achilles injury. So put all of that together, and I don't think your take is the craziest of them all, but I would think that Miami is the pole position runner for the AFC East spot.
Buffalo.
I think Buffalo has a lot of deficiencies this year. I think this is going to be a very much so a retool year where they still are going to compete. Maybe they snuck into the playoffs, but I wouldn't be surprised with like I don't know a 10-7, 9-8 season in which they miss the
Interesting.
playoffs.
Okay. So what's your
It
hot
wouldn't
take?
surprise me if that happened.
Ah, he's saying it wouldn't surprise you that the Buffalo Bills were mid. Really?
If the Bills were mid and missed the playoffs.
And missed the playoffs. Interesting.
Yes, because
Well, in that case, you are kind of banking on the Jets to do something at least then.
yes, that's it.
'Cause
I haven't looked in depth to the schedules and I haven't made my predictions yet. I need to make that
we need
some
to do
point
that.
soon.
We need to do
We need
that.
to do that. We need to look into that. It's gonna happen, but I haven't done it yet.
We
But I
also need
mean,
to review our
just
predictions from last year, if I'm not mistaken.
haven't we done that? I thought we did.
Oh no, we did. We
We did it, right? Okay. I'm
did.
not crazy. We did. We
My
did.
brain's just potatoes.
But I just think like the team of the Buffalo Bills in general. I think they've taken hits this year in order to compete in the future. So I think they understand that they were in the position that it wasn't gonna work all that well in terms of like the offensive weapons, although good, weren't really pushing them further and they
They
weren't
knew they
getting
were good,
anything.
but they knew they weren't the best, so they decided to take a step back and retool, and then
They
try
took inspiration from Cody Rhodes and Angelo.
yeah, damn straight.
So they move off of Diggs. They move
Quite
off of
honestly, if you want me to be honest, I think the Bills' biggest problem is they very like, and this isn't even low key. They built themselves as a team to try to beat the Kansas City Chiefs, and what ended up happening when they did that, they didn't beat the Chiefs. First and foremost, that's the embarrassing part. They built themselves to beat the Chiefs, and they didn't beat the Chiefs. And then after that happened, they got embarrassed by the Cincinnati Bengals because they were built to beat the Chiefs, but they definitely weren't built to beat the Bengals. So the Bengals just came in and rolled them. And honestly, I'm glad they took that as the sign from God that, you know what, buddy, I think we need to change the direction we're going.
I do
You
agree
there?
with you. And now that and now that they've done that and they've realized it has not worked at all, they're just going the complete opposite direction. I mean, they moved off of some big pieces. I was trying to get like the full
Gabe Davis
on.
was surprising to me. I'm surprised they let Gabe Davis sign with Jacksonville. I'm not gonna lie.
Maybe they just see what everyone has saw already, Angelo. That Gabe Davis is most definitely not him. Um, but other than that, I mean, they moved off of a few interesting pieces, let's put it at that, that could have helped them compete. So I was looking here at the players that they either signed or moved and whatnot. And if I'm not mistaken, it was Stefan Diggs. Why is it not showing me the waves? Good stuff. Sport track, good stuff. It's not showing me the waves, but I know they moved off of I think it was Poyer that they moved off of, and Hyde, if I'm not mistaken, as
Poyer?
well. Yeah,
Okay,
and Michael Hyde. Yeah, I think it was both, wasn't it, or was it just one of them?
Google search will find out. Like,
Roster transactions. They moved off of. Okay. So ESPN is
like a
actually
Hyde is
better at
Bill.
this.
Oh
Okay,
no, he's a
still
free
a.
agent. He's a free agent.
Okay. So I'm not crazy. They did move off of a few of those guys. Okay, so they released. Why isn't it showing me the released
Where is the
guys?
Dolphin?
Poyer is a dolphin, exactly. Um, okay,
Hyde is
Cyril
a
Neal as well. Mitch Morse. They also moved off of Mitch Morse. They moved off of Tre'Davious White. Sure, some of these guys, like for example Tre'Davious White, I don't believe he played all that much last season with the injuries, but they are still good players that they decided it's time
There's a lot
to.
of movement.
Yeah, so
They basically gashed that defense.
yeah, exactly. Like the whole secondary is quite new, quite young. So this definitely seems like one of those moves for the future in which they are
RJ Tejeda considered
retooling.
that someone.
Yeah, they are just retooling this team in order to get something going new. Um, and I think it's gonna be a 1 to 2 year long project. Maybe next season they will have improved cap now that Stefan Diggs, for example, is off the books. So is Poyer. So is Mitch Morse, Deontay Hardy. All of those guys are completely off the books. They'll have plenty of money to attack free agency and to attack the trade market. So I think you will see a down year for the Bills this year. And next year they're going to try and move for a jump up in next year's off season. So I wouldn't be shocked if they completely miss the playoffs this year. I'm not saying that they're going to be terrible. They still have Josh Allen. They still have some good pieces on the offense, all around the offense. But I just think that we could definitely see a Bills team that struggles to get to 10-8 and just misses the playoffs at 10-8, like it happened last season. There were teams that missed the playoffs at 10-8. So yeah, I think a 9-6 record, a 10-8 record is definitely something that is possible. So I wouldn't be surprised if the Bills miss the playoffs.
Okay. This is a fuck you, Alex. It wouldn't surprise me if Malik Nabers finished with a better season than Marvin Harrison Jr.
It would surprise me a shit ton.
A shit ton?
A shit ton.
Why?
Well, because for one, I think Marv is the better player. Two, I think he's gonna have more opportunity in terms of good opportunity. Let's put it at that, because I trust the QB more in Arizona. I think there will be plenty of available targets for him. I don't think the competition outside of, for example, McBride is gonna be all that much. And I just trust in Arizona more than I trust the current Giants. Even though that I've said that I don't think the Giants will be terrible. I just think that Daniel Jones is probably not the guy that you want to trust for your player to have the best of fantasy football seasons. No, I think they will be fairly close because I think Neighbors is definitely gonna be a top 24 option. But I'm thinking that Marv is gonna be right around the 15 to 10 range. And I think Neighbors is gonna be closer to the 20 to 24 range. So I don't think the difference is gonna be all that much. So that's why I'm saying it would actually surprise me. But
Deep balls
you've
all day.
had crazier takes.
Neighbors. All day. Nevers is gonna come out and like they're basically gonna do what they did with Saquon, except with Nabbers, just like 1-2, time to go to Nabbers, time to go to him.
I could see that as well because if we recall back in the Bills, Dable was the guy that was feeding off Stephon
Yeah.
Diggs. So definitely see that happening. I just think that the talent of Marv and the situation of Marv is a lot of steps above Neighbors right now. So I just think he's
Neighbors
gonna
is
have
faster.
a top 12
He's more
season.
athletic.
We don't know any of that, guys.
We
This
do
could
know
all be fake news.
I know all of that. You know why I know all of that,
Because
Alex?
when they
Because
were
Marvin Harris
16,
Jr. decided not to do the combine.
no. You know all of that because when they were 16, Marv was slower and less athletic than
Not
Malik
slower.
Nabers.
Not so much slower. Say
Much
much slower,
slower.
Alex.
Okay, much
Thank you.
slower than
Thank
Malik Nabers.
Thank you.
That's
Thank
it. So
Thank you.
Angela is going
Thank
off of data that has 8 years almost. No, less than that. It has 4 to 5 years.
Exactly. You're up next.
Okay. Get ready to get blown off. Because I've said this before. Like, this isn't a new thing in the show. But listen closely. I wouldn't be surprised
Uh-huh.
if the Carolina Panthers
Oh my God! Don't do this.
made
Don't
the
do it.
playoffs.
Stop it. Just stop it, dude.
I'm not saying that they will
I'm
make
struggling
it.
to. I'm struggling to think of a team they're better than in their own damn division.
Well, I can tell you one right off the top of my head.
Stop it! Don't you dare bring that hate out here.
Now, it's not really hate, but it's definitely the New Orleans Saints.
Stop it.
It is what it is. I just think this team has something to it. Like, I think Dave Canales did a really great job with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I mean, we talked about Baker and how bad of a rap he got from working with Carolina and whatnot. He joins Canales in Tampa Bay, and all of a sudden, he's getting like 33 million API on a 3 to 4 year deal. Um, and like everyone seems to have forgotten what Baker was before working with Canales. And now Canales gets to work with Bryce Young, who, to a lot of people, myself included, was the best QB in last year's draft. And had he had, I don't know, 3 more inches, he was going to be like one of those top end prospects. Sure, hindsight is 2020. People will say that, oh, whoever thought of that? Whoever said that? People were so wrong by saying that. Sure, we all know that. But when we watched him at Alabama, he played great, and he was great. He was a great QB. He had great timing. He had a good arm. It wasn't the best of arms, but it was a pretty good arm. He had great timing. He had great ball placement. He could make every single one of the throws in the book. So he was one of those great QBs that comes out. He just was shorter than most. And people tried to use the Kyler Murray comps, but Kyler had almost, 30 pounds on Bryce. So the comp wasn't really there. And in wheels, of course. And Bryce now finds himself in a weird position in which he was touted pretty heavily coming out of college. He was the first overall pick, and he had a pretty disastrous first season. And now he gets to join Canales, and I think Canales is going to change the this team for the better. I think the defense was pretty good last year. They didn't. They didn't. They couldn't. My bad. They couldn't display all of their abilities on the field because they were constantly on the field. So that really tires up a defense, and it makes you play more risky if your offense isn't really moving the ball. Uh, every score that you allow can put you in a massive hole that creates a lot of pressure for the defense, which I don't think we'll see again this year because I think this is going to be a proper offense. I think the defense is still going to be good. They added more pieces to the offense. They added Jonathan Brooks. They really liked apparently Xavier Leggett or Legate, something like that. Xavier. They added Xavier. Um, or Terrace Marshall Jr. 3.0. But I think this team has a lot of pieces that can work. They just need the right mesh, and I think Dave Canales is the right mesh to make this team better and to get this team over the hump. So I wouldn't be surprised if they are a sneaky team that makes the playoffs. Let's also not forget that last season, like before we saw anything, the Panthers were usually, not usually, but they were a dark horse from some people to make the playoffs. Like people were high on this team last season because they saw the vision, they saw the pieces. But the product wasn't there because the coaching wasn't there. Nothing was there. Nothing mixed up well. And it ended up in a pretty darn good fire. A tire fire or something like that. And I think people are now sleeping on this Carolina Panthers team, and I wouldn't be surprised if they make the playoffs. You are in awe or in shock. It's one of those two.
Alex, they spent so much money on offensive line help before they drafted Bryce Young and got so little production out of it. It made me happy to be a Bengals fan. Do you know how bad that is? Do you know how bad that is when the Cincinnati Bengals, who have continually spent money and money and money and still have a shit offensive line to show for it? Like, do you know how bad it is when it makes them look good?
Well, yes, but it's also part of the issue was the coaching and the scheme, if I had to say.
Oh, yeah.
And people were high on that team because they invested in the O-line. And like the O-line is still there. Sure, they had a bad season last year, but when the coaching isn't good, when the QB isn't getting the ball out in time, it makes everyone look bad. And I think Canal is the guy for the job to get Bryce Young's career back to something meaningful and back to looking like his prime self back in Alabama.
Oh, yeah. His prime in college.
His college prime. Let's put it at that. He's going to have a football NFL prime as well. It starts now. I can't wait to listen to that for the first time this year. 11 hours. No, it's not 11. It's 7.
Mhm.
7 hours of football free. How is it? How does it say it? 7 hours of ad-free football starts now. Can't wait to listen to that.
This guy.
Okay, so my take is bad. I take it.
I don't know how you have that much opium. I don't know where you get, like, can I have some of it? Like, where do you get this? How how could you watch what was last year and then you're like, yeah, they got it now. They got it now. They got rid of everyone. The churn was real. They I don't know. I don't see the vision. I don't.
You know, getting rid of everyone is actually quite good. From the standpoint that everyone in there sucked.
Okay.
Everyone in that coaching staff was absolutely atrocious. Now, this could be a take that I take back, I guess, when we do our schedule predictions, because I'm looking at the schedule, and I don't know how a team that finished first overall has this sort of schedule. But as of right now, I'm
Yeah.
gonna ignore that I watched this, and I'm gonna say that I wouldn't be surprised if they make the playoffs.
Alex, they had the worst record in football, and they didn't get to select within the first round.
They had the worst record in football, and this season, for that, they get not to pick because they traded the Bears, but they also get to face the Cincinnati Bengals, the Kansas City Chiefs, the Philadelphia
Shellacking.
Eagles, the Dallas Cowboys,
Shellacking.
uh,
Shellacking.
the Tampa Bay Buccaneers as well. I guess they're in division. So the Arizona Cardinals.
hmm
And
They
that's
might
it.
make Marvin Harrison look good.
You're gonna regret all of that, Marvin
All of
Everson
this
Jr.
hate
All
for
of
all the
that
Marvin Harrison
slander.
news.
You're gonna regret it.
I'm gonna regret it.
And unlike the New York Jets, just checking this, they have no primetime game.
Yeah. Why would you want to put that on the field? Why would you want to put that in the airwaves? What the
I
fuck?
don't know. I don't know, Angelo, because I saw
You saw what?
the
You saw
Broncos
Bryce
play
Young
a
get
lot of
sacked a
times.
lot?
I saw the Broncos play a lot of primetime games these past 2 seasons. I wasn't
The Broncos
entertained,
are
buddy.
the Broncos are a historic team. No one fucking gives a fuck about Carolina.
The people in Carolina do. If you're
Well,
from
I'm sure all
Carolina,
five of
shout
them are
out to
really
you.
offended right now.
If you're from Carolina, shout out.
Get the fuck out of here, Carolina. Okay, I'll piggyback off what you said, kind of ish. I should save this one for you.
Give it to me straight.
It wouldn't surprise me if the best quarterback out of this draft class was actually Drake May.
Okay, we agree on that. Also, would not surprise me. Now, do I think it's
Oh,
likely? No, but that's
caveat
not the name of the
with the
game.
caveat. I do think that the situation is by far the worst, and it goes against my draft the quarterback based on the situation. I do think New England, like overall, still has a lot to do. But I think with the selection New England made, they have kind of stated that it's not the old New England anymore. They made 2 draft selections for wide receivers. They want to find this man weapons. The offensive line for the New England Patriots, I believe, played bad last year, but historically has been a very good offensive line. They still have a lot of the same pieces. The defense has always historically been good. I don't think, unless Gerard Mayo is a terrible coach, and I don't know. This is his first year. I don't got anything on him. But I don't think the New England situation, especially if at least like one of the players, wide receivers they drafted in the last 2 drafts pans out, I don't think it's so catastrophic that it could ruin Drake May. I think that Caleb Williams has the best supporting, unironically, Caleb Williams and the Bears has the best supporting cast around him. And it wouldn't surprise me if he just came out and balled out because he's out there now throwing to Keenan Allen and DJ Moore, and they drafted Roma Dunze, and they signed DeAndre Swift. But the New England situation is not as doom and gloom as people make it out to be.
Tyquan Thornton season, baby. You said 2 years. Let's put it at 3. Let's give my guy a chance still. Tyquan Thornton is still around.
This guy.
Yeah, I do agree
John
with you.
Ross.
I think the situation with New England isn't good, of course, but I also don't think it's as terrible as
Not
people are
ideal.
making it out to seem.
Yes.
Like It's not an absolutely god awful situation. I mean, they have players that they drafted that they do believe in them. They gave an extension to Ramondre Stevenson. Now the question really is, as you said, how good is Mayo? And I know that mayo in like some sandwiches is good, but I don't know if Gerard Mayo is as good as Mayo. So we'll need to see how that one goes first. But assuming that he is the prince that was promised, the heir apparent to Bill Belichick, that's why he got in his deal that if Bill retired, he would get the deal, or he would get the main considerations for coach or the coaching position straight away, whatever it was. Maybe they saw something in him. Maybe Bill saw something in him. Maybe the overall coaching staff saw something in him. Uh, does leave me a bit worried that every single one of those coaches that come out of the Bill Belichick tree just look completely inept outside of the shadow of Bill Belichick. So is this a situation of they suck because they go away from Bill, or do they suck because they go away from New England in the culture? Because if it is the second one, maybe there's still hope for Gerard Mayo. But again, I like Drake May a lot coming out of college. I still like Drake May quite a bit. I don't think it's likely, but again, it's not the name of the game. I think the most likely outcome is, of course, Caleb.
I have a follow up. Actually, I'll just do it on my next one. I'll just do it on my next one because the next point kind of bolsters the Drake May point. So go ahead, go on with what you're saying.
But no, that was. I wouldn't be surprised if it happened, and that's the name of the game. So I like your take there.
Okay, go on.
Okay. So I was thinking of a take here. I want to focus this a bit more on the fantasy football side of things, and maybe even
That's
the
fine.
dynasty part of things for this take.
That's fine.
And I'm gonna grab one take that I think I've said it before, but I wouldn't be surprised if by the end of the season, Marvin Harrison Jr. is the wide receiver one in Dynasty.
Okay. I think that's going to be Malik Nabers, but okay, Sarah.
But yeah, Marvin Harrison. I mean, we've talked about this before, so it's not like the craziest of takes or anything. I just think that like a good season just propels a young wide receiver so much up that I don't think it's absolutely insane that he ends above the Jeffersons and the CD Lambs. Like Jefferson and CD and Jamar. Jefferson and CD, they're 25. Jamar is 24. Marv
Yeah.
is not 22 yet. So it's like it's gonna be a 3 year difference gap for the top two
So I
guys.
got
Then
offered.
Chase is another two.
I never told you this. I got offered Justin Jefferson for Malik Nabers straight up, and I looked at it far longer than I probably should have.
So is that an end of what I should do?
What's that?
Is that an end on what I should do?
What?
Yeah, so you
Trade
said
Justin Jefferson for Malik Nabers straight up? Go for it.
no. I'd say I have Malik Nabers. You have Justin Jefferson in one of our leagues.
Mm-hmm.
Is that?
Well,
Are
you're
you
giving me
hinting
more.
at something there?
Well, you're giving me more, buddy.
Oh,
I said I pondered it. I didn't say I did the deal.
okay. So it's close at least. But the name of the game is Marvin Harrison Jr. Do you think there's any chance? Would you be surprised if Marv is wide receiver one by end of the season?
Ish. So I think Arizona is kind of slept on because of how terrible they were last year, for good reason. I don't think, even after losing like D Hop and all those weapons, I don't think the Arizona Kyler Murray isn't a bad quarterback. He just gets lambasted for playing Call of Duty or Fortnite or whatever the fucking game was. I think Kyler Murray's a lot better quarterback than people give him credit for. And I think, and when you say like Marvin Harrison Jr. is tethered to a better offense, a better quarterback than Malik Nabers, I agree with you. I think Kyler is a lot better than Daniel Jones, but I'll do you one further. I think he's also tethered to a better quarterback than Roma Dunze too right now.
Yeah, I agree. It's
So could it happen? Yes. But at the same time, I do think some certain things have to fall in his favor as far as game script goes and as far as target spread go. So they're going to have to be in more shootouts to get more pass attempts up. If Kyler comes back and he's not running as much because of the injury, that could work in his favor as well. So I think the situation's right. I think the player is very good, and I think it could happen, especially considering my next take. I think it very might happen, but I think the scenario that's most likely to happen is Jamar Chase ends the season as the wide receiver one. And that's not my take, but
Jamar, you said?
Jamar.
Okay.
Jamar, yes.
Okay. I mean, I
Yeah.
could see it as well, like as the
I
season
think
goes
I
on.
think we forgot exactly how good Jamar looks with a healthy Burrow throwing to him. I think we forgot. So, yeah, that's a good take. So, what is my take that goes into all of this? My take that goes into all this. Did you know right now on Sleeper? At least I did a super flex, so this is super flex. I don't know if this is one quarterback. JJ McCarthy is going ahead of Drake May right now.
Oh, easy.
Yes.
I did
Yes.
not know that.
Yes. So in my league, it was a 10-team league. Drake May went in the second round behind JJ McCarthy.
Yeah, right now, I mean, Keep Trade Cut confirms it. They are like back to back. Drake is
Yeah,
still
close.
slightly ahead of JJ, but Drake is going down and JJ is staying put. So that's the trajectory that we're seeing. But
So
I wouldn't be surprised in a couple of weeks. Keep Trade Cut also reflects
so
that.
so what's my thing? It wouldn't surprise me if the Minnesota Vikings fucking suck this year. Like bad, bad.
Bad, bad, bad.
Bad, bad, bad.
Okay. Ah, so it's just like because it's JJ. Is it just because of JJ?
JJ, Jordan Addison. If I'm not mistaken, the tight end, Hawkinson, is going to be out for considerable more time. I think he's still slated to play during the season, but it's not going to be until like halfway through the season.
Yeah, that's what I heard. It's gonna be at least the first 4 to 5 games of the season that he misses.
Yeah. Yep. So the weapons are there. This under Kirk Cousins was a top 5 offense. So in theory, the tools are there to be a top 5 offense. I don't think Sam Darnold or JJ are the players that get that done though. And something that we often forget about the Kirk Cousins Vikings is they were not very good at preventing the other team from scoring points. They were not. So you get a league average, and honestly, with all those weapons, would the Vikings being like a middle of the pack offense be embarrassing with Justin Jefferson, Jordan Addison, and Hawkinson? I think it would. I think that'd be embarrassing. But you're looking at a league average offense unless JJ is really good, secretly really good, and we don't know it, or Sam Darnold developed a lot more since the Jets days with a very below average defense. And I think that's going to be a combination for a lot of really ugly games. A lot of really ugly games.
Okay, so I could see that happening. I could see the Vikings really struggling on offense this season. Uh, they won't have Hawk, which we know historically that young QBs, rookie QBs, like to throw to the tight end quite a bit. So they won't have Hawk to start. But I also don't think that JJ is gonna start from like week one. I think their starter is gonna be Sam
Jefferson.
Darnold right now. So
Oh
and I
yeah,
think
no. Sam Darnold is the starter.
okay. Uh and I think that's Sam Darnold. Maybe it's still some leftover copium.
The secret
Back
Jets fans.
the secret Jets fan that liked Sam Darnold and liked Zach Wilson.
Mhm.
Maybe there's still something here, but I think that's Darnold isn't the QB that we saw last starting in the Carolina Panthers before the last Niners game. That is because he did play for the Niners. The last game of the season, if I'm not mistaken, as the rest of the starters, and he played pretty well from what I remembered. Plus, he was playing with backups for the most of it. So makes sense that it didn't look like the best QB ever, but I think it looked pretty good. Let's put it at that. And I think with Minnesota, I mean, you look at Minnesota last season; they went 4-4 in the games that Kirk Cousins played. They finished the season 7-10. So take out those 8 Kirk Cousins games, and you have a record of 3-6. And this was with the absolutely craziest revolving door of QBs that has played because they had Kirk Cousins for the 8 games, then he blows up his Achilles. They followed that up by starting. So it was 4 games of Joshua Dobbs, 3 games of Nick Mullins, and 2 games of Jaron Hall. So it was just a revolving door of guys that went in there. Just learning the system for Nick Mullins. He didn't really. No, for Joshua Dobbs, that is. And he was the guy that played the most games. He played the 4 games. And he got traded in midseason after the Cardinals were done with that project and Kyler Murray was back. They traded him to Minnesota. So he got in there. He got a 2-2 record. Nick Mullins absolutely just he didn't play terrible, but he did win 0-3. So Jaron Holland 1-1, and I think the one win that he got, it was in the game that he barely played because he started the game and got pulled right away. I could have that backwards, but I think that's it.
The
Uh,
thing that's like the only thing I'm like curious on because the thing that's working against me is Justin Jefferson is just so fucking good that you can just throw it to him and you'll be fine. Like the other team has to double team him. But now if the other team double teams him, then you have Jordan and Addison one up.
yes.
So I don't necessarily think it's a hard situation to be good at. But I don't know if the quarterback play for Minnesota is going to hit those like bare minimum benchmarks. That's the thing.
But I think that Darnold is a step above both Joshua Dobbs and Jaron Hall and Nick Mullins. He's a step or two even above those guys. And those guys, they didn't have all of those games with Justin Jefferson. He only came back, I believe it was like week 13 or something. So for 5 weeks, they also didn't have Jefferson, and they went 3-6. Now the defense this year is better, and I think the QB options are much better. Jefferson is 100% healthy. Jordan Madison is now in his second year, not a rookie anymore. Sure, they won't have Hawk, but they also didn't have Hawk to end the season, if I'm not mistaken. So I I don't think it's the craziest of takes, but I don't agree with it. I think the Vikings, at the absolute worst, will be mid and will have a record much like they did this year.
Okay, if you say so.
Because I think
I think
this
they'll be
team
bad.
has
The
sneaky
burning
upside.
ship about this team. Sneaky upside.
I think it has sneaky upside. Let's put it at that.
Don't do it, Alex. That's the basement that you're touching. That's not the ceiling.
Like the division is very tough. I'll give you that. But man,
Telling
do
you,
I feel something good about this Vikings? I think JJ is
ceiling you're
one of those
touching is
QBs.
top of the basement. It's not. It's not the actual ceiling. I'm telling you.
They have some rough games. That is true, but they also have
You get shellacked, dude.
ah, not gonna say shellacked. They do have a
You'll
very
get
tough start of the
shellacked.
season. Like they played the Giants the first game, sure, but then
Yeah.
it's the Niners, the Texans, the
The
Packers, the
league and only
Jets.
Bears game. Yeah. Go on, sorry.
No, but then after that, it's the Niners, the Texans, the Packers, the Jets, the Lions,
Hmm.
with a bye in week 6.
They lose in all of those.
Wouldn't surprise me as well. Let's put it at that. But I think they're a solid team. I think they're well coached, and that also matters quite a bit. When we tend to overlook that at times. I think they're well coached, and I think the defense has added some pieces. And some of their key players from last season have taken a jump up because they were rookies. Like for example, Ivan Pace, the rookie undrafted that they got last season, that got thrown into a starting role fairly soon. Now I think those players also have matured a bit more, and they are going to play a bit better with an extra year of experience under their belt. So I could see this team being I could see them being slightly worse than the Bills. And I don't think the difference would be all that much from the Vikings to the Bears. To the Bills, my bad.
Hmm. Okay.
Okay,
Your turn, buddy.
I'll give you mine. Are we going into the last ones, or I don't know how long we've gone? I think
Yeah,
it's
yeah. I
about
mean,
an
you're
hour.
sick. We can cut this. We can cut this a little bit shorter. We've already
Yeah.
been going for an hour. That's
Okay.
honestly, I'm pretty sure. Um, after I woke up from because I fell asleep trying to edit Austin and Ren's attempt to do a podcast without me. I think they only went like 55 minutes, so I'm pretty
Okay.
sure that theirs was pretty short anyway. So
Okay.
yeah,
So
no, good.
I'll give you my last one then, and this is one that you won't agree with, for sure. And I'm gonna say that after this season, this is
Uh,
gonna be both fantasy and actual NFL. After this season,
mm-hmm.
the number one QB in Dynasty
Oh God,
and the number one QB in his division as well
no,
is
don't
gonna
say it.
be this one guy that used to play in Florida, Anthony
Don't do it.
Richardson.
Oh my God.
So Anthony Richardson right now is QB7 in fantasy. He is, if you look at his division, I mean, a sane
Way too high.
person would likely say that he is QB3. You probably say that he's QB4 because of Will Levis.
QB3?
I mean, there's four QBs in his. Oh, my bad. I meant conference. No, I meant division. What do you mean
Oh, you went
QB3?
division. I thought you meant like in the whole NFL.
No. I was saying division. In his own division is likely QB3 because I'm saying that he's going to be the best QB in both fantasy. He's going to be QB1 in Dynasty, and he's going to be the
Well,
best QB in his own division.
he's not better than Will Levis. I already know that, so that
Okay,
makes him
so
all
you
but.
think he's fourth right now?
Who are the other guys?
I mean, it's Stroud and it's Lawrence. So
Oh, yeah. No, he's
okay,
4.
as I was saying, a same person probably has him third. You have him fourth.
Yep.
Um,
Yep.
I think now there's some red flags here. I haven't been too thrilled about this offseason for Anthony Richardson because apparently he was 100% a go. Then I saw some reports that he was having inflammation in his throwing shoulder, the one that he got surgery on. He wasn't having as many drills as he wanted to due to some pain and some discomfort. After that, I saw some reports that it was just like a one-off thing.
Oh,
That
Alex,
like it wasn't even that
Alex,
big of a thing.
Alex, Alex. Are you
Yes,
really surprised that the organization who basically ruined Andrew Luck's career is wishy-washy on this injury? Is this really the surprise to you
I
that
mean they
I'm not
didn't
sure how
ruin Richardson though. They did the wise thing last year. They could have played through the shoulder injury, but instead they put him on the shelf, let him have the surgery. They did the right thing here for Richardson last year. So I can't hold that against that. And I think I'm gonna make my case. So Anthony Richardson was a pretty
In 2
polarizing
games?
QB.
I
No,
thought you were
it was a
saying
no. It was a pretty polarizing QB prior to the season start. During the draft process, some liked him quite a bit. Some saw the potential. Angelo didn't. Angelo is the leader of the other
just
group of
Angelo.
people.
Just the
Yeah,
Angelo.
you're the leader. You're the leader of the group, Angelo. You're the leader. Some thought that he was just a one guy that could run pretty fast, could throw the ball pretty far, and that just like
He's a
1 year
poor
of
man's Daniels.
okay. So he's a poor man's Jaden Daniels. So he's a rich version of Justin Fields. Got it. And you liked Justin, you didn't like Richardson, and you liked Jaden. Got it. Okay. But Richardson came in, and for the 2 games that he played, the 2 full games, if I'm not mistaken, that was the only thing that he had.
That's all
He
you
looked
got.
pretty good. But he looked pretty good. Like for fantasy, he was great. I mean, he had like in the 1 game that he missed, like after I believe he played like half of the first quarter, and he finished on like 20 fantasy points because he got a passing touchdown or rushing touchdown, and he got like 60 or 50 yards running, something like that. He
I got
finished on 20 points, and he played like half a quarter or a quarter,
Frank
something like that.
quarterback.
You
Where
can
is
fact
this
check me on
motherfucker?
that.
Where is this motherfucker? Are you fucking kidding me? So you're telling me I just went to Keep Trade Cut just to see where the hopium was on this motherfucker. Are you telling me Anthony Richardson's in 2 fucking games showed more to you to put him ahead of Joe fucking Burrow, Justin Herbert, Jordan Love? He's ahead of Caleb Williams too, but I'm gonna ignore that for now because Caleb's a rookie. We don't know yet. But Caleb Williams is in a much better fucking situation. You're telling me. So do you agree with this, Alex? Is Josh Allen a top 1, 2, 3, 4, 5? He's number 6. Is Anthony Richardson a top 10 quarterback in Dynasty to you? Yes or no?
Yes.
Fucker's number 6. He missed the whole fucking year. Number
It-
6, Alex. In
He's
2 games.
22, Angelo. He's not 50.
He played 2 games.
You know what his average was in games that he played over 30 snaps?
2 games?
Yes, he played 2 games. He had over 30 snaps, 30% of this, 33% of the snaps, 2 times. And in those 2 games, he had 30.6 and 23.15 points. So he averaged around 27 points per game in the 2 games that he played fully. 27 points per game. And I know this is of course a very small sample size, and me just like projecting the stats over like a full season based on 2 games is a lot. But 27 points per game would be almost 1.5 points more than the top QB in the fantasy football last season. Just so you know. So Allen at 25.5.
He's rated higher than every quarterback in the fucking draft.
Not CJ Stroud.
I'm talking this last draft.
Oh, this last draft. Yeah, because he showed that he's a good player in those 2 games.
Oh my god.
Like people were afraid that he was way too raw for the NFL right away. That was
Higher
the main
is
concern.
CJ Stroud than him, actually.
Like 4 spots.
They're in the same tier. They're in the fucking same tier. I'm done. I'm done.
Not if you flip Superflex on it. Stroud is 2 tiers above.
Okay. I just had to.
They are 4 spots apart, basically.
Okay. There's a little bit of sanity here. Okay, just making sure. Just making sure.
Yes. But the main concern that people had with him, unlike, like, for example, Bryce, which was the size, him wasn't the size. I mean, he's 6'4", 250. Like, he's built like a shit house of bricks. So, dude is ripped to the guts. He's a great athlete, like, one of the best that a combine has ever seen for a QB. And in the two games he played, he shut off the concerns that people had for him. The main concern was that he was too raw for the NFL. He was going to make mistakes. He wasn't going to look sharp. And I mean, in his second game, sure, the passing wasn't enormous. He only had 200 yards passing in his second NFL game. He had 223 yards passing in his first game, 200 yards passing in his second game, a second full game, that is. But I mean, he had almost 100 yards rushing in those two games combined, and he had 2 touchdowns running, 3 touchdowns passing, and 1 interception.
Hold on, let me see something.
And the second game was versus the Los Angeles Rams, while the first one was versus the Jacksonville Jaguars.
First 2 games. Hold on.
Well, it wasn't above 200 yards because in his career, I believe he has 2. So Richardson had, if I'm not mistaken, in his first 2 complete games, he had as many, if not more, games passing for 200 yards than Justin Fields. How do you feel about that, Angelo?
Alex,
Yes.
Justin Fields had over 200 yards in his first 2 games.
I mean, wasn't his first game? What I'm checking right now, and Justin Fields in 2021.
Or did StatMuse? No, this says passing. StatMuse has him at 285 against Minnesota and 224 against Green Bay. Let's go to rushing.
Buddy, I'm watching it on Sleeper right now, and it says that his first game that he started was week 3 versus the Cleveland Browns. In the first game that he started versus the Cleveland Browns, he had 20 pass attempts. He completed 6. He got 68 yards.
StatMuse lied to me.
What are we doing, buddy? His second game, sure, he got 209 yards. I'll give you that. But he had a pick. He didn't have a passing touchdown or a touchdown, period, in his first 2 games.
Oh, okay. It doesn't do it by date. Well, that's weird.
You tried to gaslight me, Angelo. I see through your smoke and mirrors. I'm just going to say, Anthony Richardson had more total touchdowns in a game in which he played 32% of the snaps in week 2 than Justin Fields had for the first... Let me check this because I know it's more than 3, or it's at least 3. I want to give you the exact number. So he had more total touchdowns than Justin Fields had for the first 4 full games that he started. And Richardson had that in 33% of the snaps in week 2. So this is like a different playing field. Like, Fields is playing pee-wee football. Anthony Richardson is in the big leagues. You got it? Hope you did. Richardson is going to be the best QB in his division. And Richardson is going to be the best QB in Dynasty. Because a guy with his size, with his arm, with his rushing ability, this is going to be prime Cam Newton. And prime Cam Newton gave you... Yes. This is going to be prime Cam Newton. And prime Cam Newton gave... For those of you who are older, prime Cam Newton used to give you, like his 3rd season as a QB in the NFL, 426 total points. QB1 in that season. You're going to see crazy numbers for him.
There's no going
He's
back on.
he's gonna overtake CJ Stroud for sure.
You just got,
Like
congratulations, Alex. You just got the title. Anthony Richardson is going to be better. Better. You want better or as good as Prime Cam Newton?
as good as Prime Cam Newton.
Okay. Anthony Richardson's going to be as good as Prime Cam Newton. There's your title, folks.
Yes.
I got nothing. I'm done.
Yeah.
I've heard
So
enough.
the Colts are gonna have a great season. They're gonna win the division. Richardson is gonna be the best QB in that division. He's gonna have over 3,000 yards. He's gonna have over 700 yards rushing. He's gonna have over 30 total touchdowns. Sure, interceptions could be there, but he's gonna have a great season. He's gonna propel over the older Russian QBs in Lamar Jackson, Jalen Hurts. He's gonna jump over those guys with some ease. Josh Allen is probably gonna have a weaker year, just based on like the whole team taking a step back, just as we said before, to retool something. So I think he's gonna jump over Josh Allen as well, and he's gonna jump over CJ Stroud pretty easily. That leaves Patrick Mahomes, and I think he could jump Patrick Mahomes. Anthony Richardson, baby. QB1. If you enjoyed the show, please leave us a 5-star review if you're listening on the Apple Podcast, if you're listening on Spotify. 5-star review, turn on the auto downloads. Please leave us a comment as well. We like those. If you're watching on the YouTubes, turn on the notifications, leave a comment, subscribe, all of those good things. And guys, glad to be back. And I'll talk with you guys. Angelo, maybe not, because I'm not sure if he's still around anymore. He might have left us. He might have just unplugged everything and got out of the room. But I'm for sure gonna be there with you guys. Talk to you next week.